Give me liberty and give me Annette.
Welcome to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness, a podcast where we talk about the Constitution, politics, history, and pretty much anything else I want to talk about. And today is one of those anything else categories. I'm going to be talking about disaster preparation and our, natural disaster, whatever. I did a second coming episode last week, and I thought if I'm going to scare people, then I should give them something to do to help them prepare for when stuff comes down, because we are in the last days. And as we've learned from 2020, you never know what to expect. I mean, literally, we could have stuff falling out of the sky, and I would not be surprised at this point. So to do this, I brought in Mr. Cory Riley. Hi, Cory.
Hi.
And actually, Cory and I have just become acquainted over Facebook. So I've talked to Cory briefly, and I'm impressed with his knowledge about preparation, but I don't know a ton about him. So Cory, I'm going to let you tell us who you are and why you know so much about preparation.
Okay, thanks, Annette. Glad to be here and hope I can share some things that'll be valuable to people. Help them not get overwhelmed, but know where to focus and prioritize. That's what I love to do, is help people save money and prioritize correctly so that they can really maximize their efforts and their time and energy in doing what will be most helpful, being prepared for a wide variety of situations. So
Awesome.
I love to do it. I grew up in Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I just enjoy being ready. I was the one that everyone would say, hey, did you bring a can opener? They just didn't pack much because they figured I would. And so I'm the oldest of a large family, and just kind of grew up with that cowboy resilient mindset. Love to fix things and handyman. And my grandparents, my dad were great teachers to me. And as I've gotten older in life, there's so many people that just buy things. They go to the, store to buy things, and if it breaks, they don't know how to fix it. And so I just have learned from some really good people. And then I've volunteered a lot with Red Cross and other community events to help people doing mountain races, mock events. I'm a CERT instructor, and love to do good with whatever you have at hand.
So are you saying you could have fixed the vacuum that I just threw out in the garage and bought a new one to replace?
Sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not. But when you don't have a store and you don't have working facilities, then you either fix it or make do or do without. That's what the pioneers used to say, right? Fix it up, make it do or do without.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more of that in coming days. The episode that I did on the Second Coming, we basically, if you believe the timeline that a lot of people are looking at, we are heading into the time of troubles coming up here in the spring. And that doesn't sound good. So to me, that means we've got some stuff coming down the pike, and that could be droughts, natural disasters like, what is it, the stuff coming out of the sky, asteroids, I always picture that kind of thing, or war, or, eventually we know that as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we're expecting to build the new Jerusalem and go to Zion, right? And so, I'm reading the Second Coming book by Gerald Lund right now, and it talks about congregating. And so there's a quote in there, I don't remember which apostle from back in the day, but it basically talked about us all walking to Zion, to walking to Missouri. And so stuff like that scares me, because I'm not a big camper, and I'm not, I'm not really a pioneer type. Like, I've got pioneer stock, but I love the modern conveniences. And so even just talking about this preparation stuff makes me feel a little oogie. But if people that are listening are like me, they might have some food storage. Like, I have some freeze-dried foods, and I have some canned goods, but that's about all. And so what I want is for people like me to be able to sort of start doing something today that can make a difference, that doesn't cost a lot and is not difficult to do. So what I would like to do tonight is to have you tell us some things that we can do that doesn't cost anything or cost very little quickly, and then move on to what we could do for more in-depth, maybe cost a little bit, and then maybe a little bit more. So I'd like people to be able to walk away from today and get something started right away, but also be thinking more long-term, as this could be a long-term project. For me, this is a New Year's resolution, and I'm basically giving myself 2021 to, maybe I do one thing a month until I feel like I'm fully prepared.
Yeah.
Because I have to do things in baby steps.
Yeah.
And it's like missionary work. I can do a little here and a little there, but don't ask me to go out and convert someone tomorrow.
Right.
And with being prepared, I feel the same way. I can do baby steps. And so that's what I'd like to do is lay out some baby steps that people can start doing. So tell us, when we talked yesterday, you talked about water and sanitation.
Yeah. And just to follow up on what you were talking about there, because that's really important, your attitude is the most important thing. Your emotional resilience and your mental framework is number one. Your spiritual foundation. Hopefully everybody, if there's a lot of LDS people listening, hopefully they have a strong spiritual base, but we all need to up-level it and strengthen, no matter where we're at, no matter what religion we are or spiritual.
Even if you're not a member of our church, I think most churches recognize that the second coming, of Christians would recognize that we have a second coming at some point. Yeah. And even if you're not Christian, and even if you don't believe in the second coming, all you have to do is look through 2020 to realize that there's lots of stuff that could be happening at any time. Yep. And I think most people of any faith realize that you're going to need to depend on God. Yeah. To help you through a lot of this. So
you can't do it on your own. That lone wolf scenario, just doesn't really work. You do, as a family, you need to look at your responsibility, your stewardship, whether it's you're a single person or if you have a single parent and you have some kids, or whether you're married and have a family or you have grandchildren or whatever. Look at your own domain and your sphere of responsibility, and then think, okay, where are we at? Do some assessment. And your spiritual foundation is number one. A lot of people will start giving people lists and say, here's what you need to buy. And they really miss the mark and not very helpful to people, because your attitude is number one, your skills are number two, and stuff is number three.
That's good. That's good to me, because my attitude is pretty good.
Yeah.
My stuff is not
right now when everything's working, but when stuff shuts down, if you don't have power or water or gas or whatever, heat in your home, it can be very stressful, especially kids. They don't understand why this is going on. We know what's going to happen, and we're still feeling responsible, and it's tough. And you need to practice these things. And I'm going to talk about that towards the end, but I'm a big believer that if you just set up a tent in your living room and have a camp out over the weekend and live off of what you have and your skills, you'll learn more than any book you can read. And I've read a lot of books, and some are good and some aren't. But the important thing is that if you have the attitude, then you'll want to figure out some skills, and you can make some makeshift tools. Not as good as having what you need. So I'm not saying those aren't important, they are. But you got to have that resilient inside and say, you know what, if we pull together, work together, we can get through this. And there was a survey done by people in the Navy. These old people they thought would have the hardest time, and these young, strong kids, they were the ones that were just dropping like flies. And they're like, what is going on? The old gray hairs are making it through these tough times. And they said, yeah, they've made it through other tough times. They knew they could make it.
It's a resilience piece.
Haven't seen that, exactly. Yeah. So I'm a big person on teaching about that. And if you like what you hear, I'll give you some info where you can get some very affordable classes. And we'll talk through each of those important areas. There's multiple areas. And I like to help people do an inventory of where are you at spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially is another important part as well. And take inventory. And since we're kind of talking to people that are largely spiritual, I do want to say this because it's very important. If you will pray for guidance, or meditate if you don't pray or whatever, and just tune in and take inventory and ask for that higher wisdom to guide you, it will help you. I have a strong witness of that if you ask for guidance, the Lord doesn't want you to get overwhelmed either. and he will guide you step by step, and you'll be guided and learn everything you can about natural healing, or about how to repair things, or how to sew, or how to do good childcare, or whatever. And people that can bring those skills together can help each other in tough times. That's what they've always done as pioneers in World War II, in the Depression, and in natural disasters. Things tend to go downhill really quickly if people don't get that mindset of working together. And literally within 72 hours, that's why they have that term 72-hour kit. It's kind of gone the wayside. But within that 3 days, if people don't organize and come together, things break down. And we don't want to be in that scenario. It is not fun. And so that's why I'm passionate about helping people, because if they understand, they'll make it through. And I know how to make a dry toilet. I know how to take care of human waste and what to do with it. And let's get your neighbors to get educated real quick on that. Because if you don't get ahead of that, you're going to have one heck of a problem within a few days. And so that's the mindset. It's not this lone wolf survivalism thing. That doesn't really work. It's if you're prepared and have some skills and some practice under your belt, then you'll be a strength to other people. You can be a beacon. You can't throw a life preserver to somebody if you're not on solid ground yourself. And so get some of that confidence by practicing and learning what the priorities really are, and then you'll figure the rest out. You know,
I like that. That's a really good point that you said, to pray about guidance for what it is that you should be focusing on, because we all have our own skills or maybe areas of interest. I don't know that I have many survival skills unless people want to be, entertained. But I'm sure there's something that I can become good at. And so if we're praying for guidance, Heavenly Father knows where we're going to end up and who we're going to end up with when stuff happens. And so if we all come together with our various skills, we don't all have to know everything. We can all just know one thing really well. I hope my skill doesn't have to be, what was that, dry toilet or something? That sounds hideous to me. I don't hope that's not the skill that I have to learn. I don't want to have to learn to make a dry toilet. You
do need to know how, and I could teach you. It's not a big deal. Okay. If you don't know how, it will be a big deal. So there's there's some YouTube classes or things on that, but it's one of the modules that I teach, and it's really important to know. Super. Right.
So you teach classes, and if someone wanted to take classes from you, you can be reached at class@preptips.net.
Yeah, my domain is preptips.net, like network. So it's not .com, it's .net.
All right.
And they can send an email to class, CLASS, at preptips.net. I'll send you a list of some things you can do that are free and very valuable that you probably haven't thought of or read anywhere, such as getting a photo album with your family records and kids so you can prove your kids are yours. That's really important in emergencies, to simple things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of other good things. I've got a lot of experience that I love to help people, and it's very affordable, and I'm in it because I want to help people.
Cool.
So
you can get that. You'll send that list to anyone that emails you, and then if they want to ask about classes, they can do it there through that same email address. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive in here.
Okay.
So pretend like everyone's like me, where they don't have much going on. We just
Now
that's about it.
Yeah, and so praying about it, I'm just going to cover that one more time. That is so important because I've done that, and I've been guided in certain areas, and then as I learn that skill really well, then I say, what's next? And it's right there, and then I'm guided. Now learn what you can about this, then learn about this, and it's step by step, and it's a beautiful journey that will strengthen you, harness your own unique skills, and help you have more confidence and move step by step. It's so easy to get overwhelmed in this department of life of preparedness, and that's not what we want. I want to help. So we're going to talk about a couple of the most important ones, but each of these categories have a lot of good things if you're interested in learning more. So the two I want to talk about tonight is the two most important things in a big major event is water and sanitation. It's not food. Food is like 5 on the list. It's not even in the top 3 or 4.
I don't even have anything from the top 2 or 3. I only have number 5. Dang it.
Yeah. Food is nice. We like food. But you can actually live for a week or 2. You'll survive it. If you have water and sanitation, you'll do okay with little or no food.
Oh, here's a funny thing that I thought about doing, and you tell me if you think this is a silly.
Yeah.
Knowing members of the church the way I do and myself, I was thinking about stockpiling a bunch of Diet Coke that I could trade for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of us that are a little addicted, and so they might be willing to trade like I don't know, a knife for some Diet Coke or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a good idea to have some comfort foods. And even if you don't, if they're not your thing, but you have access to it and you can trade, great.
Some dark chocolate. People that have dark chocolate,
Yeah.
they will be my
I
friends.
teach a class on how to store chocolate.
Oh, I need that class. Yeah.
Hershey syrup, peanut M&Ms. There's ways it'll last a long time.
That makes me feel better. The idea that I might end up with some Diet Coke and some peanut M&Ms at the end of it. Yeah, I could survive. I can handle that.
Now, immune system is really important, and good, nutritious, dense foods are very important. So I like sprouts. I like oatmeal, things that are very sustaining and lightweight and easy to cook with no heat.
Right.
That's a whole nother module when we get onto food and things like that. Mm-hmm. But sugar and that will wipe out your immune system. So it's okay to have a little
but not, I'm not going to live on it. Right?
But you ain't going to survive on Twinkies and Ho-Hos and do well. So that's something to keep in mind.
All right.
Balance. It's all about balance. Okay, so let's talk about water for a bit, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. Your body needs water for pretty much everything that it does. Digesting food, temperature regulation, warming your body, keeping your body cool, killing germs, eliminating waste, right? Thinking clearly is really important. If you're ever tired and fuzzy and foggy, if you drink some water, a lot of times that'll snap you back into clarity because your mind needs water. So water is essential. And you need to have stored water that's drinkable water, and you need to have ways of treating water. Okay? You can't store a year's worth of water, but you could store 2 weeks worth of water. And if that sounds like way too much, then start with a week. Mm-hmm. But you really should plan on having 2 weeks of stored water. And I recommend 2 to 3 gallons per person per day.
2 or 3 gallons per person per day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have nearly enough water.
You need to drink about a half a gallon of water just to stay healthy and keep your body functioning normally. If it thinks it's in ration mode on water, it starts shutting things down and not doing so well. So plan on a half a gallon for drinking, half a gallon for cooking. That's 1 gallon. And then the other gallon for cleaning and doing a sponge bath every other day or whatever you can with whatever water you have, doing your dishes and things like that. You need to practice doing some dishes with a gallon of water and soap with just 2 drops of soap, and you scrub it, and then you put it in a bowl that's your first rinse, and then you have a sanitizing rinse with a little bit of drop of bleach in it or something like that. There's a way of doing it. Set up a little pot that's your wash pot and your rinse pot and your sanitation pot. So a lot of times if you ever go to a hostel or something like that, they'll have 3 sinks for the dishwashing, and you can do a great job with it. You just need to practice and learn that.
And that's because you're not using as much water to totally rinse it like you normally would.
Right. You rinse the soap off. You don't use as much soap. You just use a little scrubby pad to get it clean. Mm-hmm. And then you put it in the rinse water. And then when shake off the rinse water, and you just sanitize as the final station. And then let it air dry. So that's another skill. We'll talk more, if you want to take a class, and we'll go through that. Practice taking a sponge bath. So if 3 gallons a day sounds like a lot to store, try living on it for 3 or 4 days on 3 gallons of water a day. You can do it, but you're going to have to learn, adapt, and learn some skills. How do you rinse your hair with a half a gallon of water or less?
Yeah.
Right? You can do it. You can do it. You just learn to be frugal. It's kind of fun.
Cut your hair really short.
That helps.
That
So,
might be one of the first things.
so that 3 gallons of water per person per day. So let's say that's 15 to 20 gallons of water a person a week. Okay. That's 4 or 5 gallon jugs. Okay. Per person. It's doable.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to, and you can get like the soda bottles, the 2-liter soda bottles. Back in the time when we all worked, in offices and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they would have parties and throw out these big 2-liter bottles, and I'd get those and rinse them out, fill them full of good drinking water, good to go. And you can put those behind a couch or bookshelf or under the sink or under a bed, sealed tightly. Even if you have an apartment, you can find and need to find room to put good drinking water, because in an emergency, with fires and broken windows and lost people and injuries and trying to find everything else, do you want to be searching for water the first day or two?
Yeah, not so much.
No. You've got other things. You want to get your kids together, make sure everybody's okay, take care of any first aid item, issues and things like that. You don't want to be searching for water.
No.
So, word to the wise. Work on that. Number one. Okay. If you do nothing else from tonight for this podcast, get some stored water, safe water. Now, there's issues about rotation and all that we don't have a lot of time to go into, but I'll just say if the water is clean and the container is clean, it's probably going to stay fine. If you have the option to boil it before you use it, such as if your electric range is working or your gas stove is working, and you can boil it, great. That just makes sure that it's safe. I don't normally bother to rotate stored water much because I'll boil it if I can or treat it chemically or other ways. If it smells good and it tastes good, it's probably okay if it was clean when you put it in. If it's slimy and smells bad, then you're going to need to boil it or treat it before you drink it. So most stored water is going to be fine. If the container's clean and the water's clean, it'll be okay. So that, let me check my note here on that. Okay, babies and toddlers need a lot more water for their cleanup. If they're in diapers or making big, huge messes and getting it all as much on them as they get in them, then you need to take that into account. There's actually a great article in the Ensign from years ago from a Relief Society president in Brazil. She wrote an article. It's still there on the mobile app. You can get it. It's called What to Do When the Water Runs Out. And it's probably from the 80s or 90s. It's been out there for a while, but it's still there. And she goes through a lot of stuff because she's lived in that when they had very unreliable water sources. And she tells a lot of good stuff from that. So you can look for that article or email me and I'll send you the link. I'll put it in the show notes. It'll open your eyes from a real mom that's like, oh man, did I learn some stuff. We didn't throw out anything. We took our rinse water and we watered our plants with it, or we cleaned our bathroom with it or something. This is like, you use it and reuse it, and then you throw it out when it's black and, whatever. So learning how to treat water is important because you can only store so much. So then you need to have some methods of filtering and treating water. So I want to talk about that for a minute. And I recommend that everybody have a small backpacking water filter and a larger family size to do larger amounts of water. There's a lot of good backpacking filters that you can get. I like one by MSR, which is a company that makes outdoor gear, and it's called MiniWorks EX, and it's about $89, and it's kind of clear. It has a handle, pump handle, and there's a ceramic cartridge in there that has charcoal layer of filter. And that's a really nice backpacking filter, small, and you can put it in your go bag, your backpacks or whatever. It's a great Christmas gift or birthday gift or I love you gift for $90. And it's field cleanable. You can unscrew the top, pull the cartridge out, wipe it off with a rag, put it back in, run some water through it, and you're good to go. And I'd recommend getting one of those filters, and then when you can, get a couple extra cartridges. One little tip for you is if you're in a cold environment and your filter is wet, make sure you keep it in your sleeping bag so it doesn't freeze, because the water will expand and crack.
Ooh.
So when you clean that, you take the filter out and set it on a counter and let it air dry, and then store it, and it's good for next time. Don't store it wet. It'll grow stuff. Okay, so that's a nice little backpacking filter. MSR MiniWorks EX. You can get them at outdoor places or online. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. That's a really nice little one. There's other great ones out there as well too. There's some that use a paper tube, and they are okay, but you have to have a plastic syringe to back flush it.
Mm.
And so if you use that kind of filter, do not lose that syringe, because it needs high pressure to back flush it to clean it. Okay, just a little tip there. Then as far as a bigger family type of thing, there's some gravity fed filters. If you studied much in preparedness area, you probably heard of Big Berkey, which is a big metal filter. It has an upside pot kind of thing with filters in it, and then the water runs down into a collecting station below, and there's a spigot at the bottom, and so you just pour the water in the top, it runs through the filters by gravity, and then you have clean water a couple hours later at the bottom. They're great. Berkeys are awesome. There's another company that I like as well called Aqua Rain, and they make a filter called 404, Aqua Rain 404, and it can hold 4 of those filters in it, candles they call them, because they look like a long pillar candle, ceramic filter. And the more of those you have in there, the faster it will filter. So if you get the Aqua Rain with 4 filters, it's about $400, I think.
Wow.
Which is a pretty good investment.
Yeah.
I know, but it is probably the number one thing you want to have for family, for a long-term scenario. To be able to have clean drinking water, a lot of it, it'll do like 30,000 gallons or something. Don't quote me on the number, but it's a lot. Okay. That is a fantastic family gift, and one that I would really prioritize and budget for, so that you can invest in good drinking water. Just there's no substitute for it.
Right.
Okay. Then you need to have other methods of treating water. There's chemical ways. You can buy some chemicals. Simplest way is liquid bleach, which is not really great to drink. You don't want to, but it is what the city uses to treat water. It kills germs, kills bugs, and if you don't like the smell of chlorine, then you can just leave it open in an open container, and that chlorine gas will gas off, evaporate
Yeah, I
in
didn't.
about 24 hours. It's good to have a slight bleach smell when you're treating it. It means it's working and there's enough bleach in there to kill anything that's bad. And typically you use 8 drops of liquid bleach, just like the Clorox stuff, the unscented laundry bleach, Clorox. 8 drops in a gallon of water if it's fairly clean and clear. If it's murky or if it's from an unknown source, then you could double that and put 16 drops per gallon of water to treat it. And you just leave it in there for half an hour or more is good, an hour or 2, to kill the bugs. And then if you leave it in an open container, the chlorine gas will evaporate. And you can add a little vitamin C packets or something to add a little flavor. If you pour the water between containers, if it's been stored for a long time, then that will oxygenate it and improve the taste of it as well too. It'll taste flat if it's been stored for a long time. So I'd recommend pouring it back and forth. Add some oxygen in there. So chemical. There is a way that you can store dry bleach. It's a pool shock, but you have to get a certain type of it that doesn't have the chemicals. And the Walmart and Costco brand is not the right kind that I've ever seen. There's a company called HTC that makes a good one. And the scientific name is called calcium hypochlorite. It's dry powder. If you go to a spa supply place, they'll have it. Just say, I want Cal Hypo. And it should have a 70% available chlorine, 60 or more percent available chlorine. It's really hazardous material. You do not want to breathe dry chlorine dust or get it near your eyes or anything. You will have one heck of a respiratory problem if you get dry bleach breathing it. So only grown-ups listen to this. Idiots and kids do not listen to what I'm saying about dry bleach. I am not responsible for that. You need to have a dust mask, gloves, and goggles, and do it outside. And one little 1 pound bag will treat like a pond, multiple swimming pools of water.
Wow. Okay.
So it is super, super powerful, and you do not put it in a metal container because it'll corrode the metal of the container. You put it in a safe place that only mom or dad knows where it is, and it's kept dry and away from other things and people and pets. But one little 1 pound bag of that for $5 will help a whole neighborhood.
Wow.
And so that one rounded teaspoon of that Cal Hypo will make 2 gallons of liquid bleach.
Wow.
And remember when I said you only need 8 drops per gallon to treat water? So 2 gallons of liquid bleach would probably, you could give neighbors, bring your cup and I'll give you a cup of bleach, and you could make it up for your neighbors or whatever. But you are responsible for being super safe, and only mix it outdoors. You pour the dry stuff into the water. Not the other way around. You don't pour the water into the dry stuff because it will do bad stuff. So you got to learn how to use that stuff safely. I hope I'm scaring you enough that if you know how valuable it is, you'll take the proper safety precautions and keep goggles and masks and gloves in a separate container so they don't smell like bleach. Keep that stuff sealed and dry in a plastic sealed container and put XXX and red tape and everything around it. So we went over on that. It's important. It's not something I tell just anybody. I am for some reason here, but I'm not responsible for that. You need to learn and use it. And just like any other powerful tool, it can be very helpful to treat water. Okay. So it needs to be the kind that doesn't have any chemicals, and it's called calcium hypochlorite, and it makes liquid bleach. Okay, that's what it is. It's the dry form of bleach, because a gallon of liquid bleach will go bad after a year or two. It starts to degrade. It won't be good, but this dry stuff will last a long time, years and years. Okay. All right. So there's other ways of treating water. The safest and easiest is just to boil water. And that will kill normally most of the bugs. I don't think it kills Giardia or crypto. One of them will survive. Those little cysts, I think, will survive. But pretty much everything else. So bleach is pretty effective on killing stuff, but it has that, safety factor. If you have the fuel option and you boil water and you just bring it up to a boil, it doesn't need to boil for 5 minutes or whatever. It just needs to be high enough to melt wax to pasteurize it. But basically, if you get it up to a boil and then let it cool down, that's a safe way, easy way, if you have the fuel. But you might need the fuel for cooking and things. So if you have it, boil it to be safe. And that's the easiest way. Okay, so that's treating. You need to have multiple ways of filtering. Okay, one tip I want to share with you that's really important is if you pre-filter your water before you run it through your backpacking or your gravity filter. If you run it through a handkerchief or a coffee filter or some kind of fabric and just get the large sediment, the floaties
Yeah.
out, the green floaty stuff.
Mhm.
If you're getting water from a pond or something and it's got algae growing in it, you want to run it through a pre-filter, like some kind of fabric. Nylon works good. If your friend in the family wants to loan you a pair of nylons that you
Nylons,
can use,
yeah. No, that's good to know.
it's good.
It
So
save the filters.
it will save your filter. Your filter will last twice as long because you've pre-filtered that junk out of there. It's not having to filter that. Okay. So make sure you pre-filter no matter what. And if you let water sit for a while overnight, it will settle and a lot of that big stuff may float to the bottom, sand and things. And you can just ladle off the water off the top, pre-filter it, then filter that. And that's a kind of 3-stage thing to help with that. Okay, so get your head around, how can I store water? You might need to invest in some water jugs, but if you get juice bottles and you rinse them out good and sanitize them, then they'll be really good. They're thick plastic. Do not store water in milk jugs because it is meant to biodegrade, and within a year it will have a hole in it, a little teeny crack, and your water will be out.
Like if you buy water in gallons, those ones will degrade?
They will. They're just made of that milk jug plastic.
So
if you buy spring water or distilled water, you're going to need to put it into some kind of a plastic jug that is thicker. The Lexan, the thicker kind of stuff that juice bottles and soda comes in will be fine.
That makes sense. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you're getting excited about this. That's like so easy to do, free. You just find some jugs or invest in some jugs. There's a place in Salt Lake and other places that sell industrial container and supply, and you can buy barrels or you can buy jugs. You've probably seen at some places big tanks that you could put in your garage. Now that's nice. They're pretty spendy. They're several $100, and it's a great investment. If you have the option, do it. But you don't have to. I know some people just getting started and have an apartment or something. You can find room, and it will be kind of a fun. Maybe make a list of where you put water jugs so you can find them when you need them.
So what's the best way to sanitize these bottles if we're going to use them?
Right, great question. Depending on if they're used or if they were new, if they were used and you don't know it had some kind of food item in it, you can buy pickle barrels and things like that for pretty cheap at some ranch supply places and things like that. And I would just clean them out with a bleach solution.
Okay.
And then shake it around, let it sit for half an hour or an hour, kill anything there, dump that out into a safe way, and then rinse it with plain water once or twice. Not fill it all the way up, but just rinse it out, shake it around, and dump that out. And then actually with a little residual bleach water in there, it's going to be fine because it'll evaporate and kind of treat your water that you're putting in. So then that will be clean. You want to use food grade containers that'll say HDPE on the bottom of them. You can just ask whoever you're getting them from, what did they have in them if they're not new? And if they're new, you just look for that little HDPE.
I didn't know you could buy them new, empty.
Yeah. You can buy the jugs, 5-gallon jugs, and those are nice to have because you can carry water around if you had to go find a source, and you could carry those, put them in a bike trailer or something.
I know. Yeah, I see. I can picture what you're talking about, like those Arrowhead type water thingies, or.
Yeah, they're white. There's kind of these opaque white ones that don't stack too good. But there's blue ones as well that are 5 gallons, and they're a little more rugged and stacked. So they're nicer, but they're more money.
Right.
But if people just have a couple 55-gallon barrels of water, that's great. But how are you going to transport it and pump it out and things like that? So if you have some smaller containers and a pump so you can pump the water out and take it into the house and put it on the counter, you can get a spigot that fits on the lid, and then you just turn the spigot on to get water and things like that.
Right.
So think and practice, right? You got to use this, and then you'll learn a lot by doing it.
Right.
That's important. And you know, you can do this. You can do this. Don't get overwhelmed. And now, if you're not motivated by now, I have a homework assignment for you. Live this weekend on 2 gallons of water each day.
Oh boy.
And then tell me how much what a problem it is to store 2 or 3 gallons of water
Yeah, that would
a day.
motivate me. Just the idea, like
You can do it.
I
And
won't be doing it this weekend because I'm speaking in church this weekend.
you can do it. When you get good at it, no one will know. You're like clean, you smell good, it's hygienic, and you're like, okay, I put a soapy sponge in this little cup of water, I scrubbed around, and then I took 3 single cups of water and I poured them over me, and I rinsed off 1, rinsed off 2, rinsed off 3. I did it with 4 cups of water.
Wow.
And I put a little drop of essential oil in the final one, and I smell great. Okay, and you can do laundry the same way. You just need to practice. You don't need so much soap. We use way too much soap.
Yeah.
You only need a couple drops. You get to be thrifty, and it's fun. It's an abundance mindset to be thrifty. To waste is not an abundance mindset. So this is not about being stingy. This is about being healthy and clean and feeling good and alert and taking care of your body's needs and doing it in a frugal way. But you got to practice, because if people don't, they're going to go, they just won't know how, won't have the skills.
Yeah, you said that one way to practice was to camp in the living room, and you should have a notepad with you so you can write down what you realize you don't have when you're in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're paying attention. So you got to practice these things. Book knowledge will only get you this far. It'll tell you what to do, but not how to do it. And when you practice, you will learn more than any book can teach you. So I'm a big fan that people really, and I practice this stuff. That's why I've learned so many good things that I can help other people. And then you can practice and you'll find your own way. So yeah, keep a notepad and just take a tent and set it up in your living room and say, kids, we're going to have an adventure this weekend. We're going to live off of this food, and we're going to figure out how to stay warm and have light. And if we don't have light, then we'll go to bed when it's dark, and we'll wake up when the sun comes up. And you just make a list of, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I needed gloves to move this hot pot of water, or a pair of pliers to lift this or open that, or some scissors are really handy to have. They're safer than a knife, and they're really helpful in emergency situations. So some tools are really important: some pliers, scissors, some duct tape, some string, and you can get a long way. It's kind of like MacGyver, you kind of figure out some stuff. So yeah, keep a notepad and do that a few times, and you'll get way better really fast. Okay, so I just want to mention, so that I don't forget this, you've heard of the principle, the power of compound interest, right? A little bit adds up and adds up and adds up. And that's really important in your family preparedness, is to have that mindset and just set some goals and say, let's work on our water. I heard this great idea. Let's get some stored water, and let's get a filter, and let's start budgeting for a family filter and a solar oven and a backpacking stove and a few of those things that are worth investing in to have for your family. So make it a priority, make a budget of time and money, and you don't have to spend a lot. I love to help people save money and be thrifty about this and prioritize correctly. If you get your water and your sanitation stuff figured out, you'll be well on your way to tackling on shelter, warm clothes, food, first aid, self-care, natural healing, and so on, when you don't have access to typical medical resources. You want to get all of those bases covered, but just start with water and sanitation. So you want to talk about sanitation for a minute now?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so sanitation is very important, especially in large emergency disaster scenarios. But it's just important. If you didn't have water and you could shelter in place at home, you'd still need to make sure you're keeping clean and hygienic around your food handling and after using the bathroom, because when those two get mixed, it is a recipe for disaster. And most people die in the world from dysentery, which is diarrhea,
Right.
because they don't have good sanitation. And so in an emergency, we are not used to that. A lot of third world countries are, and they have adapted to that.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to know how to make sure we have a sanitation station after everyone uses the bathroom, and we keep our doorknobs and high contact surfaces clean, countertops, and we have the sanitizers to do that safely and keep ourselves healthy. So if you don't have good sanitation practices and people get sick, that's really not fun, and it can be life-threatening. So you can make a 5-gallon bucket or a tub, a Tupperware tub or a duffel bag that's your sanitation kit. And it's got a lot of Clorox wipes and some hand sanitizing gel. Those things are really good. Some soap that is a good cleaning soap that you can put a couple drops in, and you're going to have to be smart, moms and dads. You're going to have to ration and tell your kids, you only need 2 drops. I will give you soap. Here's your soap that you use after you use the bathroom. I'm going to put it on this wash rag or something for you, because you don't want to go through your soap in a week.
Yeah.
If you've got 6 months or 2 months or whatever of this to live through, that's a critical resource. So treat it as such. Okay, I talked about dry toilets. Let me just cover that so people can sleep and go, what the heck was he talking about?
All right.
A dry toilet is where if you're able to stay in your home in an emergency, which we all pray and hope we can, then to be able to use the facilities there, the toilet, is really, really good.
Yeah.
And you can flush if you don't have working water, the water's turned off for some reason, you still pour water into the tank and flush it. But it's going to go downhill, and who knows what's downhill, and hopefully it's not you. But sometimes that's the case, and that's a whole nother scenario that you need to think about. And if you want to do a class on that, I can give you some experience there. But it's happened it's a whole nother topic.
That makes me think that in 2021, which I'm planning on posting this January 1st, 2021, that if you are agreeable, I may have to have you on a few more times, because if you're not ready now, this is definitely the time to get ready and get serious. And so I may have to have you come on a couple more times and talk about some stuff.
Yeah, be happy to.
Awesome.
I'm passionate about it, and I'm going to feel guilty at the end of the day if I don't help people with what I know and have practiced. I've learned from some really, really good people, and I've just been blessed to have some experience in those areas. So I'm happy to help people if they will listen and act on it. I'll make it simple. It is important. I mean, there's earthquakes and there's places where sewer lines have gotten blocked, and they live at the low end of the street. And when everybody higher flushes, that saying, everything runs downhill.
Yuck.
When that comes in and it comes up through the drains, sorry, but you have to leave your home. You have to evacuate your home because it is a health hazard, because you've got human waste coming up through the drains.
Right.
There is a way you can put stoppers in there. Plumbers have these rubber stoppers, and it has a wing nut on the top, and you just plug it. You got to get the right size before the emergency happens. But if you have these stoppers and you can seal those gases from coming up, methane gas and things, and making your house inhabitable. I mean, $100 investment there.
Yeah.
To stay in your home versus thousands of dollars of cleaning repairs if and when you get to that point. I mean, think about this. This is really important. So there's a Chinese proverb that says, a friend is one who warns you. And being your friend,
you're a friend.
some things you probably haven't wanted to think about. Okay, so let's talk about dry toilets. So aside from the plumbing thing, that's another module, but you can make a dry toilet, which means that the water isn't running, but you can still use the toilet to sit on, do your business, and collect the waste and take it to a safe place for processing. So the way you do that, I'll just give you the 1, 2, 3 here. You turn off the water valve, so if the water ever turns back on, it's not getting in the way of your dry toilet. So turn off the water, empty the water from the tank if it's not already. There may be a little bit, a half inch of water there, when the water last was flushed. But you got to dry that all out, get some rags, and you're going to dry that out and sanitize the rags and get that thing. Okay, so that's the tank is going to be empty of water. Then the bowl, if it has some water in there, you can take a plunger and just plunge it, or even a toilet brush and just plunge it back and forth, and it'll push most of that water out. And then you got to get some rags and dry it and get that thing all dry and clean. And you may want to wear a mask and goggles and keep yourself well sanitized as you're doing this. You're going to get that thing bone dry. And then you're going to take a foam ball, like a Nerf ball, that's the right size, and you can stick it down into the bottom of the bowl where the hole is, where the waste goes. And you're going to make an airtight seal so that the toilet gases can't come up. And if you don't have this is your homework assignment, is find a Nerf ball that's the right size for your toilet.
Right.
In each toilet in your house. And you're going to make a little kit called my dry toilet kit, right? What you want to do is make those other bathrooms not used and have everybody use the same one. So all the waste is in one place and you take it out as needed, and you're not having to do that in 4 different toilets, right? One is enough, I think. Okay, so one other thing I got to mention. Okay, if you don't have the Nerf ball, you can take socks and Crisco or grease on it and stuff it down in there and make an airtight seal. And don't worry too much about getting that back out. You can take a roto-rooter, but if you I've seen people put like a racquetball ball in the socks, so they had something to grab or whatever. But you can figure it out to make an airtight seal there. Okay, now we've got a toilet with no water in it, with some kind of plug in the bottom of it to keep it airtight. And then you take some large garbage bags, and you're going to need a nice supply of large garbage bags. And you're going to get ones that will fit inside of the bowl and have enough to overlap over the side of the toilet. Okay. This is going to be for solid waste. For liquid waste, you didn't know you'd be talking about this tonight.
No.
But it's important. This is like a number 1 skill, along with water. You got to know how to do this. Okay, so here's the deal. If people are doing number 1 and number 2 in the same toilet, it's going to become a sloshy mess and harder to deal with.
Okay.
So if you have enough adults in the family, depending on the makeup of your family, if you train your kids to go pee in this bucket and poop in the dry toilet, that's ideal. Okay. It takes some discipline, and usually it's easier to pee first and then poop. So if you do your pee into the bucket, then you can easily do solid waste into the dry toilet, and you have a lot better management going on.
All right.
The liquid waste, urine, is sterile actually when it comes out of the body, and so it's, unless somebody has a really bad liver disease or something like that, it's fine. And you can dump it on your flowers. They will love you for it. Nice nitrogen. And they'll turn green and be fabulous. And so none of this is official. This is for information and educational benefit only. Don't anybody come and say, Cory's telling you can't do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying other people have found that they could do it and they had no problems. You do what you feel is best for you. But the science of it is it's safe. Liquid waste is, fine. Plants love it. Solid waste is another matter. It is loaded with pathogens, and there's a lot of yuckies there that need to be processed and handled safely to go back into the earth. And I think in Leviticus, God tells them, take your spade and dig a hole and put that stuff in the earth and cover it back up. And that's his way as the master engineer there's microbes in the soil and worms and other things that will break it down back into soil and make rich, fertile soil. So that is the safest place for it to go, is back in the ground. Okay, this is where worst case scenario, if there just is no way for people and they don't know what to do, you got to teach people how to do this on day one. Make up some flyers in advance and hand them out to your neighbors, how to make a dry toilet. I'll make a PDF if you'll hand it out, and we'll make a win-win, because you got to get ahead of it.
Actually, yeah.
If you think about this, 2 days into an emergency, and maybe people have an RV camper and they got a toilet in there with a little septic tank, and they think, well, we're fine, we'll just fill up and then 2 days later, 3 days later, their tank is full. They got to find a place to dump it. You know, are they driving around your neighborhood at night looking for a place they can then dump that stuff in your gutters? I mean, you got a major health crisis at that point. So you've got to get ahead of this, teach people how to make a dry toilet, and organize how you're going to collect that waste. Okay, if we come out, does somebody have a flatbed trailer and a tractor and they can make a place? If they want to donate some land for that, we will cook you dinner every night.
You know, Diet Coke out of my basement.
We'll just set up a rotation, and you are the hero, and you're going to have the greenest football field or pasture in a year, you know, and it safely goes back to the earth. So, you know, you're going to need to help people organize that, because if they're just dumping it and they're flushing their toilets until they don't flush anymore, and then they've got solid waste in their house, they're not going to be able to stay in that room, and it's going to get real nasty. Okay, this is why this is, a friend is one who warns you and helps you think to get ready for this.
I never thought we would be talking about dry toilets.
It is manageable. It is doable. Campers, you know, backpackers, they dig a hole and they use it, and they're clean their hands and sanitize, and they're fine. You know, you just got to practice the skills. So you can have a bucket of soil in your bathroom with a little trowel, a little cup or something, and you just put some sand or dirt over that solid waste after you've done your business, and cover it up, and then put the lid down, and it's going to smell like, you know, a pit toilet. If you go to a national park or something and they've got those, you know, pit toilets, it's going to be kind of like that. And then when that bag gets full enough but not overflowing, then you seal it up and put it in a box or a bucket so you can carry it out. And you're going to need to have a place for that to go. Either someone collecting those and taking them to a central location, or finding a way to get it back into the earth. Okay, there's other books that talk about that. You don't sprinkle lime over it, because that just pickles it and preserves it. You want to, if you were putting it into a hole somewhere, you'd poke holes in that bag so it could then, bugs can get in there and it can go back and do its thing. Cover it up with a board and put other bags there until it was full, and then, you know, that's one option. Another option is, if it's winter time and it's really cold outside and you have a rolling trash can or something that you want to put that in until people can safely get it. I'm not telling you what's right or recommendations. But you're going to need to think about it. If it's frozen, it'll be okay. That's just going to keep it safe until it thaws out, until spring comes. Sanitation is actually easier in the cold because it's frozen. You know, it's easier that way in some regards. Okay, so that's a dry toilet. There'll be, you know, we could do a class on that and more info. But you can do that and safely manage it, and you have to get ahead of that, or you're gonna have a real big problem.
No, you're right. I'm glad that we talked. These are things that were not even on my radar. So it sounds like for the you need to get your water storage going. You need filters at some point. Then you need for sanitation, you need a bucket with different Clorox wipes, hand sanitizer, soap, and then you need a dry toilet kit. So you need Nerf balls or socks or something, and big trash bags. So it seems like that's a good start for people to get started on those things. Start with water, and then because it's a dry toilet kit won't be that difficult. You just need to
It's really not.
have trash
And
bags and Nerf balls.
yeah, stuff you won't hear anywhere else, right? Only on Talks with Annette here.
Not crap, people.
You get quality presenters, ones that can help you the most.
All right. So we've been talking for about an hour, and I think this is awesome information. So what I would like to do is stop here and again remind people that they can email you at class@preptips.net.
Mm-hmm.
We'll send them a PDF with a list of a lot of things that they can do. And it really would be cool if you could do a PDF on a how to do a dry toilet.
Yeah.
That they can print. Like I think I will print up several copies to hand to my neighbors, so that maybe that's my thing in the neighborhood.
No, you're not prepared if your neighbors aren't prepared when it comes to that.
Right. And then you have classes that people can sign up for, and so they can ask you for information about that. But as the year progresses, I do want to have you come back on again, because this is like step one. So it'd be cool if the next episode could be like step 2, advanced, maybe, or medium. Maybe this is beginners, and then the next one will be medium, and then the third one will be advanced. And so if maybe the assignment for everybody that's listening today is go and get started on your water. And once you've got your water done, get your sanitation kit ready, and then get your dry toilet kit ready. And then come back and listen to the second episode, or sign up for some classes with you.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, my listeners, if you're following along and doing everything recommended, you will be good to go, or much better to go than a lot of your neighbors. So.
Oh, yeah. And since those first 2 are so inexpensive to do, I mean, you can go to the dollar store and get a lot of sanitation things, supplies. It'll help you. Brushes are really helpful. Various kinds of brushes, hopefully with different colored handles, or put tape on the handles and say, this is my food brush. This is my nasty brush. It's new right now, but as you start using them, you want to keep them very separate for their purposes. Some that are cleaning surfaces that you want to keep clean, and they're only $1, just a little scrubby brush. The long handles are nice, with longer bristles. In fact,
thinking gloves, rubber gloves, like I don't.
Here, hang on one second.
All right. We like your background too, by the way, because it shows all the COVID and other things that can happen.
Okay, this one's a great one.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if you're just listening, go to YouTube and you can see it looks like a really giant hairbrush, and with really long bristles.
Like a horse brush or something. It's got a 3-inch bristles on it. It's really hard plastic. I got this at a home supply place, one you would know the name. And
or Lowe's or one of
this
those.
you can, it's really heavy duty. You don't have to get your hands right in it. It's not a knuckle buster. It's got a little spatula on the end for scraping. So, those, get a couple, 3 of those are really great. And then label them, color code tape on it, so yucky countertops and surfaces and food and dishes and things like that.
Right.
So have some fun, have some faith. Fear comes from not having correct knowledge about something. If you understand something completely, you cannot fear it. You understand it. You know how it works. It's predictable. And even if it's a bad person or dark energy or whatever, you know how it works. And therefore, there's no need to fear it. You just navigate around it and you understand it. So if you have correct knowledge and you take an appropriate action, you don't need to fear. It's when you don't know and you're like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about this. So the practice will give you a lot of confidence. And as you pray and seek guidance, you'll be guided and you'll develop your gifts. And it will be wonderful, adventurous, and your confidence in the Lord and in your own abilities will increase. And that's the way it should be. So have fun. And I would really prioritize the water and the sanitation and do those in 2 months. I would say, let's spend a month or 2 weeks getting our water. Let's spend whatever we can do. I would really front load your energy and priority and time to get a handle on those. They're so important. They're 10 times more important. Well, 3 times more important than the other things. Warm clothes and gloves and hats and boots are really important. some good basic tools, good pliers, knife, hammer, so you can repair things, duct tape, wire, glue, thread and needles, that kind of stuff. Important. We'll talk about those other areas later, but just start and pray, and then act on where you're guided. Take inventory for your own family situation. I've thrown a lot of info out here, but you're responsible for your own situation and knowing your own family's needs and so on. When you get a handle on that and you can help other people, you might not be able to give them stuff, but you could at least tell them. And how valuable would that be? In a half an hour, I told you how to make a dry toilet. If you got your neighborhood people together and said, come here, I'm going to teach you what you need to do today to make a dry toilet in your home. Bring a paper and pen. Have the kids run around and say, we're having a neighborhood meeting. We're going to get on top of this. Wow, what a tremendously different situation you will have than a big mess and pets and vermin running around spreading disease.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fun. And it goes downhill fast, unfortunately. I'm not a doom and gloomer, but the realities are predictable. You see it at the Astrodome. You see it in Sandy, water flooding up to people's knees. And who knows what's in that water. And if that's all you got to treat, you're going to have to know how to filter and pre-filter and then backpacking filter it, right? So you can do this, and it's going to be very helpful if you ever need it, and you'll be glad that you did.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Awesome.
Keep in touch on the site, and we can do classes based on what level people are at and what they want to know.
Awesome. Well, this has been very eye-opening and very helpful, and I'm grateful that you took your time to do this. Again, this is Cory Riley, and you can email him at class@preptips.net. He will mail you back the PDFs, and I will, if you will send me links to the filters on Amazon, I will include those in my show notes. And again, I'm going to have you on, I would think at least 2 more times if you're willing.
I'd be glad to, certainly.
Because that's, like I said, this is one of my New Year's resolutions. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to start with the water and the sanitation kit, and just getting together a dry toilet kit, because now I'm like, my brain's going, you better, you never knew this, how important this was, but now you do. So there's no excuse not to be ready. So
an ounce of prevention is worth many pounds of cure.
Yeah, many pounds of stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to this, you'll be really glad. So
yeah, definitely.
practice.
Right. Yes. Well, I'm not going to be making one. But just knowing
the other areas. But cut as a bag and make sure it fits in there, right? And
yeah, that's a good idea.
Have some tape that you can tape it. You know, like the compactor bags are like 3 mil thick, you know, and those are really nice, made for trash compactors, or whatever. And just, you know how to cut it, and you have enough of those on hand, you'll be okay.
Yeah, sweet.
Great. All right. Till next time.
We could stay here all night, but we are going to wrap it up now, and definitely we'll have you back. So thank you for all of your great information. And thank you to my listeners for listening to Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness, where freedom lovers gather. And you can find this show on AnnetteTalks.com, YouTube.com/Annette Talks, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and some other places. Thank you for listening.